Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the new episode of podcast series with BL Inside Circle. Myself, Dheer Tedia. Here is my friend Akshat Bansal, who is also a core member of BL Inside Circle. Today, before introducing our guest, we have one more classmate with us by the name of Shama Varia. Apart from being our classmate and a friend and a dear friend, she hails from a tremendous work experience of about 8 years in IoT startup, managing different roles, domains. She's worked as a CEO's assistant, chief of staff before joining her MBA. She was part of several. She's managed several teams like business process and tools implementation before joining her MBA. So she is here because our guest is super special. Our guest, he's like the dark horse or the what do I say? He has been with a single company for the last 18 years, Capgemini. His name is Ashish Sharma. He's currently the vice president at Capgemini, head of top line center pre-sales, Europe. So basically, Sir describes himself as a sales guy, a traveler, a student of yoga. Uh, of course, various award winning sales performances, right from lead to close, customer management skills, everything. He's very passionate about emerging disruptive technologies and their impact on business and society. So, welcome everyone, Ashish Sir, Shama, and let's start with Ashish Sir. We want you to start with your career trajectory because you have started with sales and you are currently a VP of kind of a pre-sales role at Capgemini. So just give us a run through or a short trailer about your career trajectory.
Okay, thank you so much for having me again, and it's a pleasure to interact with all of you. Now, my career trajectory, uh, which does not appear on LinkedIn, but I will share with you guys, has been quite interesting. So, technology was not my first choice. I wanted to join the Merchant Navy, basically in the footsteps of my father's younger brother, my chacha, who was a captain in the Merchant Navy. And that was a lifelong dream, at least as a child when I was growing up. That's what I wanted to do. But as it turned out, that is not what fate had in store for me, because perhaps many of you are aware, some of you may not be, that to be in the Merchant Navy, you need to have perfect eyesight. So my eyesight is perfect, except that I'm colorblind, which doesn't mean that I see in black and white, but color blindness is essentially a very common affliction. And if you go and do a little bit of search on that, 10% of the male population suffers from some color blindness. Now, that completely derailed me. And for a significant amount of time, I had no idea, what I'm going to do, because that was what my focus was going to be. And then one of my closest friends from school days, he's still a very, very close friend. He's in a senior position uh, in AWS. Perhaps you'd also like to invite him one day to come and speak to you guys. He recommended. He said, there's this new thing called the internet, which is changing things significantly. And this was way back in the late 90s. The internet was still uh, emerging, including in the West, but in India, it was still not as prevalent as it is today. And he said, Ashish, this is something that's going to be big. Why don't you think about, a career in technology? And that's where my career in tech really started. Uh, for the first couple of years, I was part of pure play internet businesses. There was a B2B uh, plastics marketplace based out of Singapore called plasticscommerce.com. I used to lead their India operations. And for some time, I was part of Satyam Infoway, which had a massive plan for revolutionizing internet based business in India. But the .com bust actually derailed its plans completely. And then I joined a firm called Vandenberg, which was essentially the investment arm of a leading tech entrepreneur called Jan Ban. If again you go and do a search on Jan Ban, he's been in the tech industry for more than 50 years, and I had the good fortune of my product related experience in technology came during my days in Vandenberg, which was then rechristened to Cordis. And then for the last 18 years, I've been part of this wonderful organization called Capgemini, where I played different kinds of sales enabling roles, and here I am today, responsible for sales enabling uh, at the group level. I'm part of our group sales organization. I report to the head of sales of Capgemini and drive several sales transformation related topics for the organization.
Shama, you want to go next?
Yes. I was just listening to it and I was thinking how inspiring it is that people think if plan A doesn't work, what would you do? This is such an amazing example of going with the flow and making it big in life. So now I was actually thinking that, you said you are with Capgemini for almost 18 years, and sticking to a single company for such a long time is a showcase of a true dedication. And unless until someone is really passionate about what they do, such a commitment is not possible. So please give us some insights on some of your most thrilling experiences which has made you stick to your work like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful question, and thanks for that, Shama. Now, it works both ways. Uh, it's also important to understand what is the type of platform that the organization is providing, which in turn will essentially create what we typically term as organizational loyalty. But if the organization is unable to provide a growth path to an individual, that loyalty will not exist. So first and foremost, I think Capgemini provides a phenomenal platform at a global level for people to be able to build their careers and define and design a path that suits them. In fact, after a few years at Capgemini, I learned and I realized, and I share this, with all my team members also, that in Capgemini, your career is your own responsibility. The organization, which also includes your manager, the unit that you belong to, HR, they will act as enablers to help you design the way that you want your career to grow. Some people may choose sales, some people may choose delivery, some people may choose a function related to HR, finance, procurement, whatever that may be. The beauty is that the organization provides you a platform to be able to do it globally. And I think that is just phenomenal. That's the number one thing that I enjoy about being in this organization. Number two, we hear a lot about uh, flat organizational culture, but Capgemini lives and breathes that flat organizational culture on a daily basis. In fact, when you guys refer to me as sir, I actually get a bit embarrassed. So we are all on first name basis with whoever it may be, including our leadership, our CEOs, our group exec board. Because that's not the kind of culture of edifying people. No, it's basically teams that are very focused on achieving ambitious goals, and how we work together to be able to deliver them. That's what defines the culture. It's not just about individual brilliance, and you essentially create a demigod status for people. No, that's not what the Capgemini culture is about, and that's something, again, which is something that we all respect and enjoy. Lastly, uh, if you look at Capgemini's history, if you remember when I had come and spoken to you a couple of weeks back, I spoke to you about the evolution of Capgemini as an organization for more than last 50 years. And we have changed, we have evolved, not just to the present times, but also invested and taken a bet on what the future will look like, not just for ourselves, or for our employees, but also for our customers, for our partners, and for the society that we have some significant impact on. We've evolved, and we've uh, made sure that Capgemini not only remains extremely relevant, but also is focused on shaping the future. And who does that? When I say Capgemini, it's people, So and the organization gives you an opportunity to be able to shape the future, not just for your own self, but also for the organization and the clients, the society partners that it works with. And that's something which to me is phenomenal, which is the reason why I've been in this organization for the last 18 years.
Ashish,
That makes so much sense. Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Ashish, that sounds really incredible. And your journey is very motivating to us because we typically come from a generation where switching is considered to be, very, very frequent, and changing roles is something everyone is accustomed to doing in 1 or 2 years. And if someone's not doing, the person is said to be missing out on learning. So that's really glad to hear. So Ashish, my next question to you is on the lines of, in from a IT background, what happens is there are a lot of proof of concepts developed for multiple clients. So how is that proof of concept being actually converted to a project for different multiple clients? So it's like, suppose a client has come up with a very interesting idea on, say, banking, and that has worked very well for a particular, say, bank A. Now, as Capgemini, you would see that there's a huge potential for this particular similar kind of project, which could be implemented for, say, banks B and C. So how is it something that Capgemini looks into and pitches to the clients on how does that knowledge transfer happen from development to the sales teams?
I will react to that question, Akshat. But before that, I want to make a few comments on what you mentioned related to your generation's need to switch. Now, uh, when my introduction was being given, it's not that I've been in Capgemini all my life. No, I have experience prior to Capgemini, and I tried different things. And uh, the fact remains that it is important, uh, depending on what stage of your career you are at, to be able to have as diverse experiences, which will decide uh, how you want to shape your career, in what direction you want your career to go, and basically your choice of organization role will be based on that. My personal view also has been, and I tell this to a lot of young people, uh, you need to have a slightly long-term approach. Yeah, long-term approach doesn't mean 18 years. Yeah. So I've been here for some time. I'm not saying that everyone needs to do that, but what do you mean by long-term? If you're switching every 1 2 years, and that's sort of a pattern because you're getting bored, for a few more percentage on your CTC, what you're losing out on at that point of time is the inherent value that an organization tends to create for itself as well as for the ecosystem that it belongs to, and actually benefit from that. Right? What do I mean by that? We have uh, Zomato as an example, right? It started, startup a couple of years back, and then if you go and take a look at the list of people who really cashed out in when they went IPO, you'll see that those people had an average tenure of at least 6 to 8 years, if not longer, right? And I'm not talking about the the co-founder, the CFO, CEO, those guys in any case would have been brought on with a wealth creation opportunity. But because they had a longer term view, they were all focused that this concept that we have, we are going to be able to take it and scale it to a level where the impact not only on the industry but also on us is going to be significant. And we just read 2 days back that co-founder CEO is out 2 months after the IPO. If you go and look at what he cashed out on, significant, right? If these people would have been jumping around, looking at startups every 1-2 years, maybe this kind of opportunity would not have presented itself. So you need to know that why are you switching. There's nothing wrong in that, but you need to understand, why are you switching? Is this aligned to your career goals or not? Or is it in a single organization? Like I said, when I was introducing Capgemini, I have the ability. Today I'm in sales. If I want to move to something dramatically different, and I enjoy interacting with people, for example, if I want to be in HR, my organization will give me that platform. It will create that opportunity for me to contribute towards people, talent development, whatever that may be, right? So if an organization is able to give that platform to you, and growth in different parts of what you need to feel fulfilled, I think then the need to switch doesn't arise. Yeah, that's my personal view. So again, if there is a single message in that long drawn out statement, take a long term view. As an investor, you always take a long term view, so you should take a long term view on your careers. Now, Akshat, coming to your question related to how technology firms essentially are selling successfully to their different clients, right? If I were to put that in a few points. Now, today we are in a tech boom. We know that talent is in great demand. Tech talent is in great demand, and not just in India, globally. And from all angles, this tech boom will continue for a good few years. Yeah. This is not a small blip of demand comes and this it will crash down again. No, this is going to be something which is going to be sustainable for a few years to come. How many years do that? We don't know. We'll see. What has changed significantly, especially when it comes to the IT services business, is in the pre-pandemic era, the focus was on cost reduction. Yes, IT services companies, would bring in a lot of value. But why did India become so big? Is because our ability to provide skills at scale at a significantly lower cost compared to the West. Yeah. At least that is what our value proposition started with, and then gradually, we started innovating, bringing in new processes, new systems, new platforms. Akshat, as you mentioned, and different companies took a different approach. In Capgemini, and I'll quote our group CEO. Trying to marry a product business with a services business doesn't work, because the culture, the objectives of these two businesses are completely different. Yeah. So there are many companies that have tried to go the product way, and when they've tried to force fit product and services together, it hasn't worked. So where it has worked beautifully is where the product business is kept separate from the services business, and while they may be part of an overall group, the go-to-market strategy for each of these business lines is different. It's independent. In Capgemini, we are a services company, but driven by technology. Yeah, with technology at the core of everything. And what we have invested in as an organization are, the first element is what we call a portfolio of services. And this portfolio includes cutting edge technology embedded with industry specific solutions that our clients require. So when I talk about portfolio, things like cybersecurity, customer experience, things related to different elements of utilizing cloud, whether it's a cloud strategy, cloud migration, all of these are part of the group portfolio of services that we take to clients. But there are also very industry specific solutions which we essentially deliver to our clients to be able to have an impact on their core business. IT is no longer about enabling, but about powering a business, right? So, for example, if you look at the automotive industry, which has gone through a tremendous evolution, and that evolution is not yet over. Yeah, things are happening. In the past, the focus for OEM manufacturers would have been on having strong ERP systems, strong supply chain distribution, CRM solutions for the manufacturing, sales, and after sales service of the cars or the products that they were selling. But today, if you see and how the automotive industry is evolving, today almost 60% of the development of a car is based on software. uh, it's the connected car experience. It's self-driving. It's related to using uh, electric as part of a core mobility solution, right? And this is only the beginning. We are going to see the automobile industry as it evolves more and more. uh, it is going to be about a mobility experience that people will get when they buy or lease a car or related product, right? And a big part of that change is going to be software or technology driven. And the fantastic news is that that Capgemini is playing a significant role working with some of the largest automotive companies in the world to be able to drive this change. We've got something called as the automotive lab. If any of you are in Bangalore at some point of time, I'd love to show you how these next generation technologies are being brought to life in this automotive lab that we have. We also launched something called as the 5G lab. 5G is not just about faster access to Netflix, YouTube on our devices, but 5G is the ability to have phenomenal compute power to be able to deliver the next generation of experiences using the high speed technology that 5G will offer. Again, Capgemini is investing with its partners in 5G, and 5G is going to be ubiquitous, whether it is in automotive, whether it is in manufacturing, in communications, in retail. In the next few years, we are going to see an explosion of solutions based on 5G. So, do we have a platform? No. But do we have solutions around 5G, around the Internet of Things? Absolutely. And that's the strategy that Capgemini is taking, as far as being able to leverage technology and our capability and our experience in services to create these solutions for our customers and for our customers' customers.
Thank you so much, Ashish, for such an open invitation to us. We will for sure, if we are in Bangalore, we'll visit you. And you are a true brand ambassador and super passionate about what you do, and it shows. So we are really intrigued about Capgemini, your work, and how the entire trajectory has been. It is truly motivational and inspirational. Thank you so much for this. Yeah.
So maybe just one last question before we conclude. I want to be a little personal here because we have had a conversation with you before also as a leadership talk. So this question is a continuation with the earlier question I had asked. So because even I have done half a decade of sales jobs, B2B sales in tech startups, I know what kind of stressful job sales profile brings in. So hats off to you to sticking to sales and becoming a vice president in sales only and sticking to the same domain for the last 15 plus years. So my question is, I remember you answering my question, which was, how do you find time for yoga? How do you find time for other activities? And your simple answer was, my time is my time. I do not like to, like, if I'm giving a time, if I'm not giving a Saturday, Sunday to my work, that's because I want to spend time with my family or whatever my personal commitments are. So if as an amateur, if I want to start something like a yoga activity, or how to go about it, and if I want to ask you to choose one thing between yoga and outdoor sport which one would you choose on an ideal day?
So I think that's a fantastic question, and not my favorite answer to give. A little bit of both, but I'll share my perspective on yoga as well as the outdoors. Now, many of us look at yoga as doing some stretching and breathing routines on a mat. Uh, that that is 1/8 of what yoga means. Personally, for me, yoga goes beyond just the stretching and breathing exercises. I do that, no doubt about that. But for me, yoga is much more than that. It teaches you, and I think the most important, if there is one trait that I think that yoga has taught me, is detachment. Uh, I enjoy things. I enjoy what I do, but I don't want to get attached to things. And I know that this is a podcast, but I wish that this would have been taught to me when I was much younger, and that I had exposure to that, and that I would have been able to imbibe this simple principle of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean uh, giving up and taking sannyas. That's not what detachment is. Detachment is that you're part of the world, you experience the world, and experience whatever it is, good or bad, you experience it and you're happy about it. You don't let that impact you. Now, when you go deeper into what yoga has to offer, if you read some of the phenomenal treatises that have been written on yoga, and they're all today explained simply. You can go to Amazon, buy some of these books, and that is something which helps me to remain grounded. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again to all of you. For me, the simplest practice of detachment is, I love my job, but I am not in love with it. I will repeat. I love my job, but I'm not in love with it. So yes, I've been here, for 18 years, and maybe, some of you will understand that. If you don't, drop me a note, and I will explain, what I mean by that. So yoga to me is something which is very personal, and I practice it in different ways. Some days I'm stretching. Every day I'm doing my breathing routine. Every day I either read or listen to something related to the yoga philosophy. So that my mind is remains focused on that. So I that's how I practice my yoga. So yoga for me goes beyond just the stretching and breathing. When it comes to outdoors, uh, outdoors essentially is nature, and being able to enjoy things that are not man-made, that have been created by nature, is something which is beautiful, and we all enjoy it. Some people say, I'm a beach person. Some people will say, I'm a mountain person. Some people will say, I'm a forest person. But frankly, we are all people who enjoy nature in one way or the other. The sounds of waves will give you the same joy that you will get, if you hear a waterfall falling, or if you hear, some crickets or some, birds chirping around. That is basically what nature has to offer to you. And if you want to enjoy that, I would say that, wake up every day early in the morning, wherever you are, and experience the sunrise, or, before all of the cacophony of, day-to-day life begins, listen to some natural sounds if you're able to go outside. And if you're, I don't know how close or far away from nature you guys are at your campus. I'm sure there must be some nice gardens and things like that. Just go and sit on the grass, and and enjoy it. You don't need anything more than that, and I guarantee you will have a wonderful start to your day if you are experiencing that first thing in the morning. So for me, it's both.
Yeah, in fact, IIMK campus, IIM Kozhikode campus is right in the jungle. We are in middle of Western Ghats, and every day, apart from nature, There is nothing. There is just we open our balcony and we have mountains and mountains to look at. And currently, the climate and in Kerala is such beautiful because of the rains. So I completely agree with you on this. Thank you
So
so
I
much.
visit our campus. IIM Kozhikode is India's one of the most beautiful business school campus ever. It's
I'm waiting.
legitimately awarded as
I'm waiting for an invitation, to visit your campus. And whenever you guys want me, to visit your campus,
So
I
you
would be
don't
very
need an
happy to be
invitation.
there in
You
person.
are welcome anytime. You come for placements or either way. We would just love to have a cup of chai with you. Just come
yeah.
anytime whenever you are in
Even
Kerala.
if you're around in Kerala, do visit us. We would just sit with you, have a conversation, and we would love that, sir.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that, guys.
So do we.
So on that note, I'd like to present the formal vote of thanks. Thank you, Ashish, for taking time out of your busy schedule. And thank you, Belinda, also for taking so much efforts in actually scheduling this call. We all now from the takeaways, Ashish, we had so many takeaways from you, from being, understanding the need to switch, whether it is intrinsic or whether it's extrinsic. Now, understanding the process in which IT sales have been transitioning from the process of cost reduction to being of value creation, from enabling businesses to empowering businesses, and most importantly, through yoga, understanding the power of detachment. We had multiple takeaways. Hope our viewers had the same. Thank you all. And thank you, Ashish, for
Thank you so much.
taking for a wonderful session.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And thank you, both of you, for letting me be here. And Ashish, once again, pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so
Absolutely,
much.
guys. My pleasure. My pleasure.